across the open source world, there is a concerted effort. I don't want to call it a conspiracy because I don't believe it is, but there is a concerted effort to silence and bully anyone who is not perceived as having leftist politics. And fair warning, we're going to get very political if you're watching this not on conservativenerds.locals.com, which if you are totally fine with the politics. But if you're watching it elsewhere, this is about to get political. It has been happening for a while now, where if you are not politically left-leaning, you get attacked rather abusively and abrasively and cruelly in many cases by those on the left. Not everyone on the left, but by significant, loud, and vocal leadership on the left. I want to talk about that a little bit today, because this bullying, this silencing, it's not even censoring, it's silencing and bullying. It is not okay. It's not okay to do towards anyone on any political sphere. It wouldn't be okay if I did it to those on the left, and it's not okay for people on the left to do it to people on the right. It's not okay at all. And these bullies, because it's bullying, and I want to be very clear about this, I'm not okay with bullies. Criticizing people, it's fine. Criticizing ideas especially is fine. I have many ideas that are ridiculous. Criticize them. Go nuts. It's totally okay. And in many cases, I might even agree with you. But to bully people, to censor people, it's pretty off the charts. And what's really concerning is that we're not talking about one or two people. We're not talking about a couple of random anonymous people with anime cat-eared avatars on Twitter or Mastodon. That's part of it. But we're talking about significant leaders in the open source world, in the Linux world. We're talking about the founder of Linux itself. We're talking about the vast majority of tech journalists covering the open source and Linux and related spheres. We're talking about corporations and organizations and foundations that focus on Linux and open source. It's a lot, and they've, by and large, been bullies. And this is not a call for, oh, Lunduk, you poor baby, have you been bullied? No. I can handle it. I can handle getting bullied. I've been bullied before. I grew up being bullied. We're nerds. Some of us are just used to getting bullied. But it's still not cool. And you know what? I'm going to point it out. I'm going to point directly at some of the people and say, this is being a bully, and it's not cool. You're being not cool. Knock it the hell off. And I want to start with something that I've covered in the past. And I'm going to start with SUSE and openSUSE, because their bullying of people is off the charts. The previous CEO of SUSE even came out and made a point about how they would not be a conservative company, and they would not be okay with conservatives anymore. It's a real thing. You can look that one up. But what really got me, what really showed the colors of the leadership at both the company and the project, is when they declared that if you don't agree with their views on transgenderism, if you don't actively promote transgenderism, you are, quote, rotten flesh. This is a real thing. And this is a very real thing. This is a quote from an article I wrote over a year ago, where a member of the openSUSE board said the following: want to be a bigot, a homophobe? Then this community is not for you. Now, I should point out that when he points out want to be a bigot, comma, a homophobe, what he's pointing out is people who do not want to actively promote transgenderism. That's all, and that's it, right? We're not talking about people who are like, transgendered people can't exist. Nope, not even getting into that. We're not talking about transgenderism isn't okay. Nope. Not even getting into that either. It's simply replying to people who don't want to actively wave a transgender flag, right? So for him, for the standpoint, the official standpoint of both SUSE and openSUSE is if you don't actively wave a transgender flag, you are a bigot, a homophobe, and a transphobe. This is repeated several times. So I'm going to continue this quote. It's fascinating how they twist the words in this way. If that means a loss of users, so be it. Cutting out the rotten flesh is healthy and needs to be done rather yesterday than tomorrow. Their membership needs to be revoked. They need to be banned, not moderated. The colors are about including people with full respect for their being who they are. If you can't bring yourself to that, beep off. Find yourself some excluding community. Now, I want to be clear about this. This is a member of the openSUSE board. This isn't just a random person who contributes to the project. This isn't a user of the project. This isn't someone on social media talking about the project. This is a member of the openSUSE board of directors specifically saying that they are 100% down with cutting out the rotten flesh, in their words, of people who do not wave the transgendered flag. Crazy, and that they're okay with losing a lot of users in the process, and that people need to be banned outright. Censorship, banning, people are not allowed. Now, and it got worse. It got worse because the previous openSUSE board chairman and SUSE employee, longtime SUSE employee, then got into that. And just to clarify, was like, yeah, rotten flesh is a perfectly apt description of people who don't wave actively the transgender flag. Quote, I really don't care where they go as long as it's not anywhere with openSUSE in the name. Ideally, I would hope they find that every other Linux, open source, and free software community is equally unwelcoming to them. So this is SUSE corporate and openSUSE project and the openSUSE previous board chairman coming out and saying unequivocally that if you do not wave the transgendered flag, you should not be welcome anywhere in Linux or open source or free software. That is their hope, that they hope to ostracize you and vilify you and censor you and ban you so much that no one would be willing ever to even talk to you. That's their stated goal. And they call you rotten flesh in the process. And here's the thing, they did all this. They did massive bannings. If you go through, I've been contacted by so many people who got banned from the openSUSE project, from the openSUSE project email lists, from the openSUSE project subreddit, and various other things, because they said, wait a minute, I think it's okay if someone doesn't want to wave the transgendered flag, banned out of the project. Not joking. Massive and sweeping bannings across the board. I had several people reach out to them saying, I'd like to get back in. And they said, no, flat out. I did the same thing. I was like, you know what? I noticed that they were having board member elections because I'm a previous openSUSE board member. I was elected to the openSUSE board, and I used to work at SUSE. I know these people, and I know how it works. So I said, you know what? I think there's a lot of technological awesomeness and some good quality engineering going into this. I wouldn't mind getting back into the openSUSE board and trying to help fix the problems like this, because this is not okay. It's not okay to bully people and vilify and dehumanize people this way and really lie about people, because they're calling people the rotten flesh for simply not actively waving the transgendered flag. That's not okay. That's not true. That's not accurate. That's awful. That's awful, and that's bullying, and that's not an okay way to be. So I thought, I'll get back in and I'll run, because I guarantee you, if I ran for election and they didn't ban everyone, I'd win. So let's do this. And they said no, they would not allow that. They wouldn't allow me to even come close to their mailing lists or anything. I'm simply not allowed, because of my views, because of my political views. And what's fascinating is they held their board member elections just recently. They weren't able to get enough people to actually have an election. They had 3 open seats. They begged and pleaded to get a third person to be willing to run, and they filled them with everyone that ran. There was no real election there, because the project's essentially slowly dying because of what's happening here. So it's not just that it's wrong what they're doing. It's not just that it's mean and they're bullying. they're destroying themselves, and that they're willing to destroy themselves to do it. And they've stated it. We're willing to lose all of our users if in order to stand on this hill. How awful is that? And now here, this guy, Daniel Foray. Daniel Foray is the founder of Elementary OS. And Daniel has come out so many times in the past and said some pretty extreme political things about me, about other people, about lots of people, about ideas. And Daniel has made it clear that he has no interest in having anyone using or talking about or being involved with the Elementary OS project. Now, Elementary is a fork of Ubuntu with its own desktop environment. And it's one I've talked about and promoted many, many times. In fact, I've interviewed Daniel a half dozen times for Linux Journal magazines, for shows. We've gone out to eat together. Like we know each other. But Daniel is here and has posted this quote the other day on Mastodon. And now over on Mastodon, he posted this right after someone was spending a lot of time talking about me, right? So, and knowing Daniel and knowing what was talked about at that moment, Daniel is talking about me here. So that's why I'm quoting this one, because it's kind of amusing. Quote, "Stop promoting fascists and alt-right extremists. Don't link to their blogs or videos. Don't let them speak at your conferences. Don't have them on your podcasts. Don't amplify their voices." Now, this is a leader in the Linux community, ostensibly, right? A founder of a Linux distribution, Elementary, saying flat out, do not link to the blogs or videos of someone who is right-wing. Now, he's talking about me here and calling me a fascist. What's fascinating is I don't know if he fully knows what the word fascist means. He's trying to censor me and silence me and encouraging others to do so. Silence and censor. And I'm the fascist, apparently. Now, here, I'm going to be very clear. Don't silence and censor Daniel Foray or the Elementary OS. Don't silence and censor them. If Daniel and Elementary and anything related to Elementary posts an interesting blog or video or a new piece of software, link to it. Use it. Talk about it. Talk about the good points. Talk about the bad points. Talk about it honestly. If Daniel wants to speak at your conference about Elementary OS and it's an interesting thing and you think the people at your conference want to hear about it, book Daniel and put him on that stage. Do I agree with Daniel's politics? Well, I think you can probably guess the answer is no. Daniel is very left-leaning and I'm pretty right-leaning. But does that mean I think Daniel should be censored or bullied or ostracized or name-called? No. There's a big difference here. And Daniel is not the only Linux distribution leader that's been pushing exactly this sort of thing. I mean, shoot. Here is a quote. I'm gonna read this quote to you now. This is from Hector Martin. Now, Hector Martin runs a project and created a project called Asahi Linux, and it's kind of an interesting project. The whole point of it is to reverse engineer the modern Apple Silicon Macs to get full support in the Linux kernel for those machines, and then create a distribution that sits on top of it that sort of acts as a reference spec for running modern Linux on the ARM-based M1, M2, etc. Macintoshes. Very cool project, right? With real uses, and I give it the thumbs up. Well, here's what Hector Martin has to say. Quote, "I'm going to be really blunt here. If you don't care about trans people, if you even remotely think that there's the slightest hint of merit to the blatant genocidal actions that are going on in the US right now, you can beep right off from my projects, spaces, and communities." He didn't censor himself, by the way. "I don't give a beep about tech shouldn't be political garbage takes. Tech," he's replying to me there, by the way. I was immediately after I posted a blog post telling people that, we don't need to have politics in tech. He didn't like that. "Tech is made by people, and right-wing legislators in the US are trying to, I think it says kill or murder colleagues right now. There is no tech without people." Now, I want to be clear about something here. Is there a genocide going on? No, I don't know anyone at all who's like, let's murder every transgendered person. I don't know. I don't know who that would be. I've never heard that before. I've certainly never espoused such a crazy idea. I don't want anyone to get hurt for any reason. Goodness gracious. I don't, especially not what they believe they are or how they dress. I don't care. Goodness. So is he a little off his rocker here? Yeah, he is. And here's the thing. He doesn't want you if you are not extremely pro transgenderism, right? Because this isn't about being anti-transgenderism. It's about not being pro-transgenderism. Do you see the difference? If you are not pro-transgenderism, in the mind of Hector Martin, you are committing genocide, and you are promoting genocidal actions. If you think that tech doesn't need to be political, or just in general, if you're just like, you know what, tech doesn't need to be political, he does not want you involved with his project. He tells you flat out, don't be involved in his projects, spaces, or communities, right? This is kind of a recurring theme. This is not the only one. We've had similar issues with Haiku and multiple other open source projects that are out there, where they simply were like, no. If there's someone who is political and we don't agree with them, or something along those lines, we just simply will ban them across the board. It's crazy. It's craziness. It's craziness that would be the case. Now, here's Linus. Here is Linus Torvalds, the creator of Linux. This is very real, by the way. This is a real quote from Linus. And I'm going to read the whole thing to you because it's classic Linus and it's usually entertaining, but also because it shows you the sort of environment that Linus himself, the creator of Linux, is encouraging other people to follow and amplify. Quote, I think you might want to make sure you don't follow me, because he's replying to someone who used the word woke. Because your, quote, woke communist propaganda comment makes me think you're a moron of the first order. I strongly suspect I am one of those woke communists you worry about, but you probably couldn't actually explain what either of those words actually mean, could you? I'm a card-carrying atheist. I think a woman's right to choose is very important. I think that well-regulated militia means that guns should be carefully licensed and not just randomly given to any moron with a pulse. And I couldn't care less if you decide to dress up in the wrong clothes and decide you'd rather live your life without feeling tied to whatever plumbing you were born with. And damn it, if that all makes me, quote, woke, then I think anybody who uses that word as a pejorative is a peeping disgrace to the human race. So please just unfollow me right now. Now, is that a certain level of the same sort of thing? Yes, yes and no. It's not going as far, right? openSUSE and SUSE and Elementary and all of them, they're just flat out saying, we just got to silence everybody. What Linus is doing here is he's setting the tone for the community. He's saying, here's what I think. And I don't want anyone following me. I don't want anyone listening to the words that I say if they disagree with my politics. That's a fascinating approach. Now, here's the thing. I don't care what Linus's politics are. I care if he makes good software, and he does. And when he does that, I'll promote it. I don't see the issue, right? Now in this sort of thing, do I think that Linus is a bit woke here? Yeah, yeah, I do. Is that a problem? Not really. I mean, if he wants to make it a problem, I guess. But that's fine. That's okay. We're allowed to have disagreements. And I would never say to Linus, don't follow me if you disagree with me. Well, go ahead and follow me. Now, I don't have to listen to him, and he doesn't have to listen to me, but I'm not going to tell some other grown person what to listen to or not. And I'm certainly not going to do like the other leaders in the Linux world are doing, and they're basically flat out threatening people, bullying people, demanding that they not link to blogs, that they not amplify voices, that they not invite people on podcast. I would never do that. That's crazy. That bullying attitude is crazy. And I want to mention this briefly because I want to I think that it's all a part of a broader issue, and the Linux and open source podcasting and YouTubing world, it seems to have a certain amount of darkness to it right now. There have been a series of videos and podcasts over the last couple of weeks that where very left-wing people have attacked people that are more right-wing. And once again, if you have an issue with someone's politics, talk about them, criticize them, do it as colorfully as you want. I really don't have any concern with that. In fact, if you do it in an entertaining way, even if it's about me, I'll probably laugh along with you. But when you start really aggressively attacking individuals, and when you call for the wholesale censorship of individuals, that's when I start to have concerns. Significant concerns, because there is a common thread happening here. Because it's not just the Linux projects and the leaders of the open source organizations that are doing this. It is all the podcasters and YouTubers, a huge amount of them. These two are screenshots of two of the creepier examples that I've seen in recent years. One of them was talking about me. One was talking about another guy, a guy that I don't really even know all that well. But the whole point of these videos that were created, and they were lengthy, close to an hour or over an hour long videos. In fact, the one right above me, spent an hour slowly getting undressed, throwing confetti on himself, then laying on the ground while talking about how much he dislikes me and my wife. Very weird, very creepy in his glittery cat ears. It's weird and creepy. But that aside, putting the creepiness of all of this aside, I don't like it when people call for the censorship, because both of these and many other podcasts have actively said, don't allow people to talk to Lunduk or that switch to Linux guy that the other video over there was criticizing, or many of the other more right-wing or more conservative or more libertarian journalists or project leaders or whatnot. They specifically did not want those voices to be amplified. Don't have them on your podcast. Don't link to their blogs. In fact, this one guy above me had bragged, and this is wild to me, bragged with screenshots about how he bullied people into taking down links to my articles. Now, how wild is that? Now, if he wants to do that, more power to him. And if people want to put up or take down or whatever links to my articles, go for it. But it's fascinating that so many of these people, the leaders of these Linux projects, the openSUSE project, SUSE Corporate, Elementary, these folks up here, other podcasters, some of the tech journalists out there, they feel that it's not only okay to bully other people into silencing right-wing voices, but that it's a good thing. That if you bully people and if you name call and if you say, don't ever let them speak at your conference, don't let them on your podcast, don't link to their blogs, don't post about them on social media, don't even utter their name, that they think that that's a positive, that they think that that's right and just and good, and that it's making the world a better place because of their bullying. Ugh. And the open source journalists across the spectrum, and when I say across the spectrum, I really mean across all of the tech news websites, they do two things that feed into this. They refuse to cover topics that are unflattering to leftist political ideas, right? They just refuse to cover topics. Which means that you miss out on a great deal of coverage, right? And that's a problem, right? The second is they refuse to speak with or credit journalists that are known to be right-leaning politically. And this is a fascinating thing. But when a journalist, a tech journalist, publishes an article or a podcast or a video on the YouTubes or whatever, and it's a solid work of journalism or breaking news, but that person is known to be a bit on the right leaning of the spectrum politically, the vast majority of tech journalists refuse to credit or link to that original person, just by and large. And you can see this when you really deeply follow open source, Linux, and even tech news in general. You see this happen. Breaking news will get broken by a right-wing journalist, and then many months later, a left-wing journalist will mention it, but not credit the right-wing journalist. This is a problem. This is not good journalistic integrity, but it also kind of feeds into that whole silence the right-wing tech people. It's not okay. It's not cool. Now, am I going to go out there and say we need to boycott these journalists because of that? No, I'm going to call them out. And when they do something right, I'm going to praise them. I mean, just earlier, I was recording a show where I was talking about the good work that The Register, a tech news outlet, just did. It wasn't great work, but it was a significant improvement over past work. And I was praising them and encouraging people to go and read them. Now, do the writers at The Register like me? No. They've made it very clear that they do not. And in my politics is the reason they don't like me. They've made that very clear. They've said as much. But does that mean I'm going to silence them just because their politics are different? No. I'm going to criticize them when they deserve to be criticized. I'm going to praise them when they deserve to be praised. We don't have to be friends if we don't want to be. We can be, though, because people with different politics are allowed to be friends and are allowed to work together. But I'm not going to call for their boycott and silencing. That'd be ridiculous. And I want to state a few obvious things here. Bullying in general is not cool. In this video, I've showed you several examples that are bullying, flat out bullying. That's all they are, is bullying, vilification, ostracizing, attacking, just being mean-spirited and seeking to silence people who are disagreeing with you, who are undesirables. That's not cool. It's just not cool. Whether or not it should be allowed is irrelevant. It's not cool. So knock it off, people. And the second thing, silencing those you politically disagree with is not cool. Forget the bullying for a second. Doesn't matter how kind you are when you do it. If you are silencing people because you politically disagree with them and you are saying no one should allow them to speak, notice they're not disagreeing with me or with other right-wing writers. They're saying that those people should not be heard. Those people should not be allowed to speak. And other people who link to them should be bullied and ostracized. Just silencing people because you disagree with them. Just let the ideas stand for themselves. Goodness gracious, people. Attacking people personally because they vote differently from you is not cool. It's not nice. Don't do that. Goodness gracious. And besides the niceness of all this, forget about this, the whether it's cool or moral or ethical or nice, forget about that for a second. It's a bad strategy. You just alienate more people by doing that. So the people that go out there and say, don't listen to those people because they're right-wing, or heck, if you go out there and say the same thing, don't listen to them because they're left-wing, don't even link to them because their writers are left-wing lunatic. You're just going to alienate people. You're just going to make it so people will be less likely to listen to you. You're just going to prove to people that you are so bigoted and hateful that you refuse to even allow other people that aren't you to have ideas that are different from you. That's how insecure you are in your own ideas. This is a bad strategy for a journalist. This is a bad strategy for a project leader. This is a bad strategy for a company. These are bad strategies. If you're looking to expand your business, don't do this. If you're looking to expand your credibility as a journalist or a writer, don't do this. If you're looking to grow your user base or your contributor base in an open source project, do not do that. Bad strategy, guys. Stop it. Knock it off. It's terrible. But more importantly, it's not nice. I mean, really, I hate to be a little Mr. Rogers-y about this here, but it's not nice. It's simply not nice. Now, I have said several things in this video that I guarantee you I will get yelled at for. And that's okay. What wouldn't be okay is if people said, don't listen to that video. Don't let anyone hear about that video. Don't link to that video because he's a Nazi, fascist, alt-right, blah, blah, blah. They'll come up with all sorts of random names to throw at me. A random Jewish man with a pineapple shirt on. But they'll do it. I'll get attacked for it. I always do. I always do. If you do not already subscribe to the Lunduke Journal at one of the three many glorious sites available, there's lunduke.locals.com, which is where all the tech lives. It's a non-political site. This video would not appear at lunduke.locals.com. It's all political, this video. This video will appear at the one on the other side, conservativenerds.locals.com. That's the one political site I have. So if you want my political takes, you want more in-depth coverage of topics that just get way too political, anything beyond a casual mention that a company did something that happened to have some political aspect to it, like a casual mention, that might go on lunduke.locals.com. But as soon as we're casting feelings about it or talking about it more in depth or more polarizing, it goes over on that one on the far side there, conservativenerds.locals.com. Now you'll see some of my political videos and some of my entertainment videos and whatnot on the various other places that you'll see me around the internet, like YouTube or Twitter, X, or Rumble. You'll see all of my videos all smushed together. But if you want to get them all separated out, the political ones over there and the non-political ones over there, and the entertainment ones at nerdyentertainment.locals.com, you want to go over to lunduke.com. And that's where you've got links to all these sites. You get links to all these sites. You can sign up, you can subscribe, and have a fantastic day about it. All right, everybody. That's it for now. That's all I wanted to talk about today because this really deserved to be talked about. Now, have I been attacked by many people on the left wing of open source and Linux? Yes, I have. Do I need pity for that? No, I don't. I'm fine. I'm fine because of that. Now, there are other people, however, who are getting attacked for their political beliefs that are, especially if they're on the right. They didn't sign up for that. They didn't sign up for being a public figure. They're not journalists. They're not public facing YouTubers and podcasters and project leaders and whatnot. They're just average people. And like I know, for example, the openSUSE project, a bunch of them got kicked off the project, just average developers who happened to make the mistake of uttering one time that they didn't want to wave the transgendered flag. Well, they're out. It's for those people that we need to be talking about this, because it is dramatically damaging a lot of jobs, a lot of hobbies, and it's just not fun for any of them. So that's who we're talking about this for. And it would be nice if we could somehow stop doing all of this. I would like to put out a proposal to any of the people that I've criticized. The proposal is thus. Stop it. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the intertubes, with that, I do declare, end broadcast.